Imagine you're settling in to watch a professional sports match. You've got your snacks, you're looking at the team sheets, and you see like a 14-year-old kid stepping onto the field.
Right. Which is already crazy.
Yeah. And we aren't talking about, a mascot or some ceremonial appearance. He is a starting player.
Hmm.
And against all conventional logic, this teenager proceeds to absolutely dismantle an international veteran bowling attack.
Just completely tears them apart.
Exactly. He's clocking a strike rate of over 300. We're talking pure, unadulterated fireworks, just sending the ball into the stands over and over. I mean, if you saw that live, you would probably think you had just witnessed the game of the season, right?
Oh, for sure, if not the decade. It's the kind of sporting event that instantly becomes mythology. People would be talking about where they were when they watched it happen for years.
Which makes what we are talking about today so utterly baffling. Because if you look at the advanced analytics for this exact match, the algorithms classified it mathematically as one of the most boring games of the entire season.
Yeah, it's a massive paradox. You're pitting the human experience of watching a literal prodigy against the cold, hard logic of data science.
And understanding why that disconnect exists is sort of the core of our exploration today. Welcome to this deep dive, by the way. Today, we are taking you far beyond the basic scorecard and looking into the hidden data narrative of a very specific, highly unusual game of cricket.
A really fascinating one.
Yeah. We're pulling our insights from Critechery, which is this brilliant, deeply analytical newsletter published by BatLab. The focus of their report is Game 3 of IPL 2026. This was played on March 29th at the Barsapara Cricket Stadium between the Chennai Super Kings, so CSK, and the Rajasthan Royals, RR.
And, if you just glance at the final summary on a news app, it looks like a routine, totally forgettable blowout.
Right, just a standard game.
Exactly. The Rajasthan Royals chased down a meager 128 runs to win by 8 wickets with a massive 47 balls to spare, a completely dominant victory.
But our mission today is to look at the machinery running beneath that surface-level summary, right? We want to understand the actual architecture of a blowout.
Yes. To do that, we'll be breaking down some of the analytical models BatLab uses to quantify the game, concepts like the burn rate, counterfactual simulations they call Black Mirror, and the highly controversial Humdinger Score.
Yeah, we want to give you, the listener, the mental models to see the hidden currents deciding the outcome of any match you watch.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really grasp how the Rajasthan Royals chased that target so effortlessly, we first have to look at the structural collapse of the team setting the target.
Right, we have to look at how Chennai catastrophically failed to build an innings. The failure was systemic, honestly, and it started the exact moment Rajasthan won the toss and chose to field.
Just immediately downhill.
Yeah. What followed in the first 6 overs, the power play, was an absolute demolition by the bowling side. I mean, by the time those 6 overs were up, CSK was sitting at 38 for 4. Wow. Let's put some names to that wreckage, actually, because it highlights the scale of the problem. CSK's top 4 batters are elite. You have their captain, Ruturaj Gaikwad, Sanju Samson, Ayush Mahatri, and Matthew Short.
A powerhouse lineup, usually.
Usually. But combined, those 4 players contributed a total of just 14 runs off 26 balls.
It was brutal. But you have to give credit to the bowling from Rajasthan's opening attack. It was surgical. You had Jofra Archer hitting speeds north of 143 kilometers per hour.
That's just terrifying pace.
Oh, absolutely. And he gave Gaikwad zero width to maneuver. Gaikwad tried to manufacture room by stepping away to slice the ball, missed it entirely, and his stumps were shattered.
Oh, man.
Yeah. The official commentary actually noted the swag on Archer's face after that delivery. It was just the look of a bowler who had completely outthought the batter.
And it wasn't just Archer bringing the heat either. On the other end, you had Andre Berger generating this incredible late-seam movement. He clean bowled Sanju Samson for just 6 runs. And if you're watching this live, that moment carried so much heavy narrative weight because Samson was playing his very first IPL innings for CSK after being traded from Rajasthan. So he's facing his old team.
The pressure must have been intense.
Yeah, he swings wildly without getting his feet into position and just misses completely.
And Berger didn't let up. When the number 3 batter, Ayush Mahatri, walked to the crease, Berger welcomed him with a genuinely nasty bouncer.
Yeah, I read about that.
The ball took off sharply off the pitch. Mahatri tried to pull it way too late and was just beaten by sheer pace and bounce. The umpire initially didn't give it, but Rajasthan used a DRS review.
Right, they challenged it.
Exactly. And the Ultra Edge technology showed a clear, undeniable spike off Matria's bottom thumb, so he was walking back with a first ball duck.
So when you are looking at a crater like that, 4 wickets down for almost nothing, how do you even begin to measure the damage? It's not just about the runs they didn't score in those overs, right? It's about the survival time they just lost.
Exactly, and BatLab tracks this using a really fascinating model they call the burn rate. The model visualizes a T20 innings not just as a runs accumulating over time, but as a path through what they call resource space.
Resource space. That sounds very sci-fi.
It kind of is. In limited overs cricket, you have two finite resources, right?
Hmm.
The 120 balls you face and the 10 wickets you have available.
Hmm.
The model plots how efficiently a team spends its wickets to acquire runs compared to historical baselines.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because Critechery describes CSK's burn rate in that first innings as a controlled descent that became a free fall. In just 5 overs, they had consumed 40% of their primary resource. So 4 of their 10 wickets, for a return of just 38 runs.
That is a terrible exchange rate.
Seriously, it's like blowing half your monthly salary in the first day of the month, right? And then you're just forced to live on instant noodles for the next 29 days.
That's a great way to put it.
Or, like an aerospace analogy, it's like a spacecraft re-entering the atmosphere, and the intense friction strips away the outer heat shields almost immediately. Once those top layers burn away too fast, the fragile core of the ship, the middle order, is instantly exposed to conditions they aren't engineered to survive.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it. I mean, the middle order is designed to accelerate an established innings. They aren't meant to negotiate a swinging ball against premium fast bowlers with an aggressive field setting.
Right. But I want to push back on this a little bit, or at least challenge the standard response. If you're a team and you realize your heat shields are gone, like you're bleeding wickets early, isn't it mathematically better to just accept the chaos and play recklessly?
What do you mean?
Well, rather than going into a shell and slowly, painfully limping to a measly total of 127, shouldn't you just risk getting bowled out for 80 runs trying to hit boundaries?
It's an intuitive argument, for sure. We always want to see teams go down swinging, but statistically, the reckless approach in that specific game state is a trap. And the burn rate model shows why.
Okay, how so?
When you lose 4 wickets in a T20 power play, you trigger a massive shift in tactical geometry. The opposing captain can bring their fielders in tight. The gaps in the outfield just disappear. More importantly, the bowlers no longer have to bowl defensive, run-saving deliveries.
Right, they don't have to protect the boundary anymore.
Exactly. They switch entirely to high-percentage, wicket-taking deliveries.
So you're saying if they try to hit out, they aren't just taking risks, they're taking risks against heavily optimized bowling.
Correct. The historical data BatLab uses shows that when a team tries to maintain a high boundary percentage after losing 4 power play wickets against an elite pace attack on a responsive pitch, the innings doesn't usually reach 80. Yeah, the expected value drops precipitously because the probability of an edge or a mistimed shot finding a fielder just skyrockets. They might have been bowled out for 50. By slowing down, CSK was trying to stabilize the burn rate to ensure they at least consumed their other resource, the 120 balls.
Which means the entire rest of the CSK innings was purely about survival. It was no longer a cricket match about setting a competitive total. It was just an exercise in avoiding total humiliation.
And that reality totally defined the middle overs. I mean, CSK brought in Sarfaraz Khan as an impact substitute, and he actually provided a brief, illusory moment of hope.
Yeah, he had a nice little run.
He played with real positive intent, scoring 17 off 12 balls, which included this massive sweep shot for a 6 off the veteran spinner Ravindra Jadeja.
But you can't challenge a bowler like Jadeja and expect him not to recalibrate instantly.
Oh, never. He is a master of micro-adjustments. The 7th over was the definitive pivot point of the innings. Immediately after being hit for 6, Jadeja didn't panic. He adjusted his length, bowled fuller on the off-stump line, and trapped Sarfaraz pound W.
Boom. Just like that.
Right. Then, just 4 balls later in that exact same over, he tossed up a full wide delivery outside off stump. It was an absolute invitation to drive. Shivam Dubey took the bait, didn't quite get to the pitch of the ball, drove it straight to the fielder at long off, and was gone for a duck.
Wow. So in the space of 4 deliveries, CSK collapsed from 51 for 5 down to 57 for 6. The match was functionally over right there. I know Jamie Overton managed some late resistance down the order. He scored a grinding 43 off 36 balls, which is, frankly, the singular reason they managed to scrape together 127, but he was just delaying the inevitable.
Yeah, when an innings collapses that thoroughly, Evaluating the team's true performance becomes very difficult. You can't just look at the final score of 127 and judge the batters who came in at the end.
Right, they were put in an impossible situation.
Exactly. You need a way to isolate the impact of that early failure, and this is where BatLab utilizes a simulation model they call Black Mirror.
I love this concept. So instead of just guessing what a normal innings would look like, the Black Mirror model generates counterfactual alternate realities. It asks, what if the timeline was different? What if the foundational structure of the innings hadn't collapsed?
And the model doesn't just add arbitrary runs either. It runs thousands of Monte Carlo simulations based on pitch data, specific batter versus bowler matchups, and historical scoring rates for each phase of play.
That's super comprehensive.
It really is. In their primary Black Mirror scenario for this match, they programmed the model to assume Gaikwad scores a respectable 40 instead of 6, and Matai survives that brutal bouncer to make 15.
So instead of the middle order walking out at 38 for 4, they are coming in at a very stable, 75 for 2?
Exactly. The context shifts entirely. The middle order is now tasked with acceleration rather than rescue. In this alternate reality, running through the expected value of the remaining batters, the model projects CSK reaches a highly competitive 170 to 175 runs.
Okay, wait. I have to hold my ground and push back on this data model for a second, because cricket is not played on a spreadsheet, right? If Gaikwad is actively scoring 40 runs and building a partnership, the human element changes everything.
How do you mean?
Well, the pressure of a higher score alters the fielding placements. The Rajasthan captain would push fielders to the boundary, which changes the run-scoring probability of every single subsequent ball. You can't just plug in historical run rates when the tactical environment would be completely different.
That is the most common critique of predictive modeling in sports, actually. And it's a vital point to raise. Human pressure and tactical momentum are very real. However, the architecture of the Black Mirror model actually accounts for this.
Wait, really? How?
Yeah, it isn't assuming the field stays up or that the bowlers keep bowling aggressively.
But how could a computer possibly know what a human captain would do in an alternate reality?
Because it doesn't predict individual human decisions. It calculates the average distribution of those decisions over a massive data set.
Oh, I see.
By pulling from thousands of historical T20 matches where a team is 75 for 2 at that specific stadium, the model inherently bakes in the fact that fielders drop back and bowlers bowl defensively. It proves mathematically that even with the opposition shifting to a run-saving strategy, the baseline capacity of the team was 170 runs.
That makes a lot of sense when you frame it as baseline capacity rather than like a crystal ball predicting specific shots.
Exactly. The fundamental failure of the top order mathematically erased 45 to 50 runs from CSK's capacity, regardless of any tactical adjustments Rajasthan might have made.
Okay, so the data establishes that CSK left roughly 50 runs out there, scraping together 127. Now we have to look at how Rajasthan responded to that target. Normally, when a professional team is chasing a low total, you expect a cautious, methodical approach, right? The batters take no risks, they knock the ball into the gaps, and they just slowly tick off the runs to guarantee the win.
That is definitely the standard operating procedure. But instead, a teenager walked out and turned this professional cricket match into a video game set on the easiest possible difficulty.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting, because this is where the narrative goes completely off the rails. Enter Vaibhav Suryavanshi, 14 years old, opening the batting for the Rajasthan Royals.
14. It's just wild.
If you look at his stats for this match, they almost don't compute for a player his age against international athletes. He scored 52 runs from just 17 balls. He hit 5 sixes and 4 fours. He finished with a strike rate of 305.88.
A strike rate of 305.88 in a professional chase is staggering on its own, but the context makes it absurd. He wasn't teeing off against, exhausted part-time spinners at the end of an innings.
Oh, not at all.
The defining matchup of this run chase was this 14-year-old facing Matt Henry, an incredibly experienced, highly skilled New Zealand test bowler.
Right. Matt Henry is hurling the ball down at 135 kilometers per hour, and Suryavanshi is just using that sheer pace to send the ball into orbit. In the third over of the innings, he hit Henry for 3 massive sixes.
3 of them.
There is this great piece of commentary from the live broadcast that Critechery highlighted in their newsletter. Suryavanshi pulls a short ball so hard and so fast, the commentator says the teenager almost gave himself whiplash as he watched the ball sail over wide long on.
The visual spectacle of that is undeniable. But as analysts, BatLab wanted to quantify exactly how deeply that onslaught broke the structure of the game. They track this using a model called the inflection point, which measures the real-time ball-by-ball win probability as a match progresses.
Yeah, I was looking at their inflection chart for this chase, and it is completely bizarre. Typically, a match chart looks like a volatile heartbeat monitor, right? Spiking up and down as wickets fall and boundaries are hit.
Normally, yes.
But BatLab calculated that at the very start of the chase, Rajasthan's win probability was 55%. That's a slight edge because of the low target, but it acknowledges that early wickets can derail any chase.
Right. The model factors in the venue history, the pitch conditions, and the historical success rate of chasing low totals at Barsapara. That 55% is a solid mathematical baseline.
But then, ball 4 of the very first over happens. Suryavanshi hits his first 6, and the win probability instantly jumps to 70.4%, just 4 balls into the innings.
It's a massive spike.
By the end of over 2, the probability hits 85%. And by over 5, when Suryavanshi reaches his half-century, the model effectively gives up. The win probability crosses 97%.
Critechery makes a brilliant observation about this data. They note that the chart doesn't actually show an inflection point. It shows the total absence of one.
Wait, how so?
Well, an inflection implies a turning point where momentum shifts from one side to the other. Suryavanshi didn't shift the momentum. He violently eliminated the mathematical possibility that momentum could ever swing back to Chennai.
The chart literally looks like a computer loading screen that shoots straight to 99% in 3 seconds and just freezes there permanently. Which brings us back to the massive paradox we opened this deep dive with. We have a match featuring a 14-year-old prodigy playing with zero fear, hitting a 300-plus strike rate against international bowlers. That sounds like the most wildly entertaining television possible. So how on earth does an advanced algorithm look at that and say, actually, this was boring?
It comes down to BatLab's proprietary metric, the Humdinger Score. This algorithm is designed to objectively measure how thrilling a match actually is on a scale of 1 to 10. And it rated this specific match a brutal 1.5 out of 10.
Giving that performance a 1.5 feels like a crime against the sport. What is the algorithm actually measuring to reach that conclusion?
So the Humdinger algorithm is calculating the integral of the win probability chart. It looks at 3 main inputs. First, late game tension. There was 0 last over drama here because Rajasthan won with 47 balls left to play.
Right.
Second, the final margin of victory, which was a massive 8 wickets. But the most heavily weighted input is the time the match spends in what they call the competitive zone.
You mean the 40 to 60% win probability range?
Oh. Exactly. The model defines a match as exciting only when the outcome is statistically in doubt, when it's essentially a coin flip. In this match, only 2.7% of the entire run chase was spent inside that competitive zone. The statistical uncertainty was annihilated in the first 2 overs.
So what does this all mean? If you were a fan watching this live, you saw the game end that quickly, you probably assumed Matt Henry threw the game away. He conceded 40 runs in just 3 overs. It looks catastrophic on the scorecard, and human nature wants a villain to blame for a loss.
BatLab anticipated that exact reaction, actually, which is why they ran a second Black Mirror scenario specifically focused on Matt Henry. They asked the model, what if Henry hadn't been dismantled by a teenager? What if he bowled exactly at his career T20 average economy rate?
Okay, and what did it find?
That performance would have saved Chennai about 16 runs.
And the model shows that saving those 16 runs makes absolutely no difference to the final outcome, right?
None whatsoever. The effective target would have been 144 instead of 128. Even without Henry bleeding runs, Suryavanshi's early 6s against the other bowlers still dominate the power play metrics. The model projects Rajasthan might have won by 6 wickets with 38 balls remaining instead of 8 wickets with 47 balls remaining.
So the result is basically the same.
The fundamental result is identical. The data mathematically proves Matt Henry didn't lose this match. The foundational collapse of CSK's top order in the first innings left 0 margin for error for any bowler.
I understand the math, but I have to push back heavily on the philosophy of this Humdinger score. To me, this reveals a massive, glaring flaw in how data science evaluates sports.
Really? How so?
The algorithm is measuring excitement purely through the lens of statistical tension, like how much time the game spends is a 50-50 toss-up. But watching a 14-year-old step up and absolutely humble elite athletes is inherently thrilling. It's awe-inspiring. Doesn't a metric like this prove that data completely misses the human joy? The sheer aesthetics of watching a prodigy at work?
What's fascinating here is that this is a fantastic philosophical debate, and it highlights the exact boundary line between quantitative analysis and human experience. The model isn't flawed, it's just measuring a very specific emotion. The Humdinger score measures the anxiety of the unknown. It does not, and honestly cannot, measure the awe of the spectacular.
Ah, I see. It's the difference between watching a tense murder mystery versus watching an action movie.
Exactly.
Like, if you're watching a brilliant thriller, you are on the edge of your seat because you genuinely don't know who the killer is until the final 5 seconds. That is tension. What Suryavanshi did was like watching Superman easily punch a meteor out of the sky in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Right.
There's zero tension because you know Superman is going to win, but it is an incredible spectacle of dominance to witness.
That is a perfect distinction. The algorithm isn't saying Suryavanshi's batting was boring. It's saying his sheer brilliance made the context of the match a foregone conclusion. Statistically, the outcome was inevitable, even if the method of achieving it was breathtaking.
So, stepping back to look at the whole picture, this match was essentially decided in two extreme, diametrically opposed phases of play. First, you had the cold, clinical, almost surgical precision of Jofra Archer and Andre Berger systematically dismantling the foundation of the CSK innings.
Yep.
And then in response, you had the sheer, unbridled, joyful aggression of a 14-year-old wielding a bat like a sledgehammer.
It was a game of total extremes, which is exactly why the analytics provide such a fascinating lens to view it through.
And that is exactly why you, listening to this right now, should care about these models. You've probably seen a dozen batting collapses or blowout run chases, but this deep dive proves that just looking at a final scorecard reading that a team won by 8 wickets with 47 balls left never tells you the whole story. By understanding concepts like the burn rate, where you can actually visualize a team losing their foundational resources too fast, or inflection points, where a single player permanently breaks the mathematical gravity of a run chase, you gain a new vocabulary for the sport. You start seeing the hidden currents that are actually deciding the outcome, rather than just reacting to the surface-level waves.
Knowledge is most valuable when you can actively apply it to your own experience. The next time you watch a game that feels like a blowout, you won't just see one team losing. You'll be able to spot exactly when their resource burn rate became unsustainable, or how their baseline capacity was fundamentally compromised early on.
We've covered a massive amount of ground today, from the physics of 143 km/h fast bowling to a teenager rewriting probability charts in real time. But before we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a thought to chew on, something that goes beyond the specific numbers and players we've discussed today and touches on the philosophy of how we consume sports.
It raises a really vital question about what we are actually asking our algorithms to optimize for.
If our most advanced data models are Humdinger scores and tension trackers, inherently penalize pure, spectacular dominance simply because it reduces statistical uncertainty, are we programming our analytics to value stressful mediocrity over absolute perfection?
It really makes you wonder what we're actually cheering for when we watch a game. Are we cheering for greatness or just the anxiety of a close contest?
Until next time, keep looking past the scorecard.